Netflix, Harvard University, the NBA. These are some of the clients we've had today's guest work with. He's a fan of the show, and we're excited to have him here today because he has not just one successful company, but he's on his second now, both in a space that can help many entrepreneurs in areas that are not the obvious, where you have to really be established to start even worrying about these. So get ready to get inspired. Sahil, thank you for joining us here on That Entrepreneur Show.
Vincent, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to tune in. Today, we're staying on the East Coast. He's a little higher than me up in Atlanta. I'm down here in Tampa, Florida. But today, we bring on the CEO of Spiralize, a leading company specializing in predictive CRO and data-driven landing page optimization. Huge missed opportunity for myself, even as I'm always trying to learn to get better, and many out there. But today, this is just a peek of what we will hear on That Entrepreneur Show. My name is Vincent A. Lancia. I'm excited to welcome you to another great show. I want to thank you for helping make this show a top 2.5% global podcast. Can't do it without the guests. Thank you to our guests today for coming on, our past guests, and all of you, the amazing listeners. I gave a sneak peek of what we can expect today, but he's been involved in so much more. We're going to talk about A/B testing done right, how to run that efficiently without big traffic, and so much more. But Sahil, let's go back in time. Why did you want to become an entrepreneur to start out?
I think it's like a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't make good employees. Not that I was like terrible, but I think I've more than having like one single idea, I saw, and the entrepreneurship, but it takes so many different forms. Um, when I was in graduate school, I actually did a study on the dry cleaning industry,
Okay.
laundromats. I think I was the only person at Harvard Business School. Everyone else was, by the way, I was there at the same time as Mark Zuckerberg. So people were building like Facebook. I was talking to people running laundromats, but I found it fascinating, specifically how immigrants come to this country, start businesses, build capital. And that, and there have been people in my own family that have done that. There's a lot of Indian people that come here, they do motels, they do convenience stores, they do laundromats. And I had the itch. Now the context that I've done it, a little bit more around software. So that's how I got started.
Did you always want to get into software, even growing up? Or I know technology continued to emerge, or what attracted you to that field?
So no, the short answer is no. I mean, I kind of, when I just content, I'm 46, so like, software's been around a long time, but like in the 80s and 90s, that wasn't like the idea of like becoming a software entrepreneur, I don't think was like a thing so much.
Right.
Um, I think it was more, I like kind of the tech. I worked at several software companies first, so I learned something, knew a little bit about it. I spent a fair amount of time in like software sales specifically, which is great training. And so that when it was time to start my own business, I knew I at least knew how to do that. I knew how to build a little bit of software, and I knew a little bit how to sell software. And then I figured I'd kind of figure everything else out as I went along, and make a
Well,
lot of mistakes, which I
that's it
did.
right there. You're going to make a ton of mistakes in entrepreneurship. If there's any aspiring business owners out there, a lot of trial and error. You're going to have to just keep connecting with people, building your network, having great conversations like I am with today's guest, because there's just so much you can bring to the table. Let's go back to that first business. Did you exit that first company? Are you running both right now?
Yeah, I exited. So I ran that business for 10 years. It's called ER Express. It does patient scheduling, digital registration. You can upload your insurance card, check in from home for acute care, like urgent care, as well as animal or veterinary ER. But a lot of people don't know this. There's more veterinary ERs in the US than there are people ERs in the US.
Really?
Yeah. There's about 5,000 people ERs, and there's about 6,500 veterinary ERs.
Learn
Now, if you
something
add
new every
urgent
day.
care, there's also about 15 to 20,000 urgent cares,
Okay.
people urgent cares. But it's a big market. big market. So that's what ER Express does. Ran for 10 years. Sold it to a large software conglomerate called Constellation. Fantastic company. Stuck around for a year, but I knew sooner than later I was going to want to do the entrepreneur thing again. And I actually was an early customer of Spiralize when I was running ER Express. That's how I knew the company.
Okay.
And I'd stayed in touch with the founder. He'd done a great job building it organically, bootstrapped the business, and was looking for a partner to help him take it to the next level.
So round one, you bootstrapped on your own. Round two, you did it. You took someone else's vision and you helped bring it to that next level. I love that. It's just a big testament to the long game in entrepreneurship to me. And I didn't make this up. Someone brought it up on a show recently. It's like a video game where you unlock the next level. I always had heard the doors analogy, right? You open the next door, you get the next accomplishment, get to the next door, get some high profile guests like yourself, continue to come on the show. So continuing to do these little things are incredibly important. What's one piece of advice that you wish you knew back when you started your first company that you can lend to aspiring entrepreneurs right now?
Oh man, so many. And you said about it being kind of trial and error. It's going to be mostly error. Just look, I think the perception is that it's, the dream is that it's up and to the right. Everyone, you're going to build the next Facebook. And if you're on one of those rocket ships, by all means, like hang on, and what a great experience that is. It's the exception more than the rule. And I think part of the skill of being an entrepreneur is learning to live in the valley. Like, there's going to be peaks and valleys. And what you imagine is, I'm going to have a few valleys, and then I'm going to climb out of them, and I'm going to be at the peak, and I'm going to look down, and it's going to feel so good. And I'm like, oh, look how far I've come. And sure, there'll be some bumps along the way. The reality is you spend most of the time in the valley just thinking, like, is this as low as it can go? And sometimes you find out, no, it can get worse. In fact, it almost always can get worse. And it took me a long time to learn how to just exist in the valley. And you often don't know that you've climbed out of it till 3 or 4 months have gone by, and you're looking back and be like, oh, we've made progress. Like, and it's not just a blip. Like, we were here, now we're here. And just like as a mental outlook, I think if you wake up every morning and you haven't learned how to be comfortable living in the valley, you're going to be in a really bad place. I've been there. I didn't know that. I know that now. I wish I knew that before.
And the valleys now, as entrepreneurship continues to grow, getting them smaller in frequency in between, you should say. We're back in the day, if I get one check in 6 months when I'm doing speaking and only school speaking, right? It's okay. Those valleys are deep and you're in really, really bad place mentally, or at least I was. Now I try to hold myself accountable with the sales cycle. I have to do something every day. And I just talked about this actually in the last show, Fanatical Prospecting. It's a great book I read when my MacBook went down maybe about a half a year ago. And it talks about in your sales cycle, you pay the price today for 90 days out, right? If you don't network today, you don't do any sales outreach today, 3 months from now, you're paying that price. And that's when that's when you're getting down there. So I absolutely love that analogy. Now let's fast forward. We talked about the beginning. Now we're present day. You've got this amazing company. You're working on, now you're at, no, we're talking about Spiralize. Yeah.
Yep, current business.
What do you think is next for this company as far as growth?
Well, we've had some pretty amazing growth in the last couple of years. And we're at, I mean, I can't discuss kind of all the financials, but, we're at a stage north of 10 million in revenue annually. It certainly gets harder as your denominator, growing from 1 to 2, of course, 0 to 1 is its own thing. And then, by the way, from 1 to 5, very few make it from 1 to 5. 5 to 10. Once you get north of 10, like the kind of the game theory definitely changes. Because part of what you have to do is not get distracted buy shiny new objects,
Hmm.
and some of the things that you held together through duct tape, that growth, it's going to stretch, it's going to break some of those things.
I had to put that right there in the notes. I loved how you say that. When the game theory changes, when your revenue and business earned continues to increase.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
here's the thing. What you want to do is you want to avoid going kind of big company too early. In fact, you want to try and avoid going big company as long as possible. And I've worked at big companies, great. I've worked at 2 publicly traded companies, amazing. It's if you even work at one, it's pretty amazing. You want to, those things are a tax on growth.
right.
So you want to put off paying that tax as long as possible. You want to selectively be like, okay, this process isn't working. Having 15 direct reports isn't working. But also, I'm not going to go to, classic big company where I've got when I've got 17 layers between me and the first employee.
Yeah.
There's no spreadsheet that you can use to give you the answer there.
I think, again, we're talking about trial and error, right? You're figuring out what's best for your business, what's most in sync, that without forcing anything. But now I do want to talk about A/B testing and A/B testing done right. Let's dive into that.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
I mean, I chopped this up myself, so don't worry. But
Sorry.
just whatever's. I'm just. This is the topic you gave me, so I'm not familiar where you want to start with that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
look, on A/B testing, maybe a great place to start is the kind of the myth on A/B testing is you take one element like the color of your add to cart button, and if it's green, you should make it blue, and that will magically get more people to put shoes in the cart. Shoes in the cart here being a metaphor for whatever you want people to do on your website. That's called meek testing, and there's some situations where that is valuable. But for most companies, if you've never done any A/B testing, you're much better off taking big swings. Big swings get big wins. Combine a few different ideas. Now, there's some trade-offs there. Sure, how do you know what works if you change 3 things? But you're much better off doing that than changing like 100 small things, one at a time. And at the end of the year, 1 out of the 10 maybe got you a 3% lift. And then you're like, you go to your boss and you go, hey, look, we made the buttons blue. Got a 1% lift. Let me tell you, that's a surefire way for that initiative to get killed pretty quickly. Like, go for some low-hanging fruit, make some big swings. That's number one. And I would say number two, kind of maybe the fallacy is, well, if this worked for my competitor, we should just copy it. What worked for your competitor doesn't have great predictive power for what will work for you.
I would love that, and that's a huge message. You can learn from others, and I certainly try to learn from as many entrepreneurs as I can, but it's making it your own, applying it to the unique areas that you have going on in your business and your life. While we're on A/B tests, what is a surprising lesson from over 130,000 A/B tests?
Okay, I'll give you a couple. One is, you'd be surprised how many. Now, by the way, most of what we do is in the B2B SaaS world. So
Okay.
business to business software companies. That's the area I know best. It's our sweet spot. Is how many of them don't show their product on the website? Now, this is like a car ad without a car. Like, would you do that? Like, yeah, you show some other stuff, but if like, you just have Matthew McConaughey sitting at a campfire, it wouldn't really work. By the way, just today, I was talking to a company, and they're like, our CEO is concerned if we put a picture of the product on the website, our competitors are going to steal it. maybe. I hate to break it to you, your competitors probably already know what your product looks like. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, they're probably not stealing your IP on a single screenshot. So just generally, product screenshots outperform stock photos of happy people. It sounds so simple. Once you've seen the data, in our A/B tests, 53% of the time you get more conversions. By the way, it doesn't mean it always works. You should test it. On average, it gets you about 20% more conversions when you show the product instead of stock photos of happy people. Those are real numbers. You ask a software company, would you like 20% more in your sales pipe? It's a great test to run.
I love it. This is stuff that we regular, not in that industry people will never know that. And I think it's interesting to think about that there's probably so much. So everyone, if you like what he's giving out right now, stick around for just a few more minutes. We'll get his contact info. But before we do that, if you could choose any entrepreneur, dead or alive, to sit down with, pick their brain, who's your choice?
Oh my gosh, what a great question.
All time, dead or alive?
All time, dead or alive. I'm going to pick one probably you don't hear a lot. I'm a big fan of Maria Montessori. If you don't know her, she started a whole kind of school system. And she was an entrepreneur at a time when there were not as many women entrepreneurs as there are today. And she did something pretty amazing. She really created a whole movement and a way of learning that's different. I speak from personal experience. Both my kids have gone to Montessori schools. And she's no longer with us, unfortunately.
Of course, yeah.
But we could just, if you even take 10 seconds to read up on her, pretty amazing woman.
Yes, definitely not still living. But if you were to be able to have a meeting, where would the meeting go down? Where's the location?
Well, I think in just out of respect for her, I would want it to be at a Montessori school, any Montessori school. Maybe I could, if she was willing to come to me, it would be the one here in Atlanta. But she's Italian, and I love all things Italian culture, and I've been to Italy a bunch of times. I would love to go to Italy. Maybe we could meet in Cinque Terre and have a great conversation about Montessori school.
I love it, but you'll have to tag some of the family members if they're in business. That way they can hear the shout out. I'm sure they'll love that. But with that, I got to thank you so much for taking some time to join our community here on That Entrepreneur Show. Where can we find you online?
Best place to find me online is on LinkedIn. I post 4 mornings a week at 7:30 a.m. in short 1-minute snippets on things CRO. I have a game show that I host called CRO Crimes, where we battle it out over landing pages. The winner gets $100 for their charity. And it's a lot of fun.
That's cool.
And that's one of the things that you'll see if you come check me out.
Appreciate you sharing that. And everyone, I'm going to ask him to leave a comment in this live stream here on LinkedIn so you can find easy access to his page in the meantime when his show goes live. You definitely want to connect with him when he's there. My name is Vincent A. Lancy. You can find me on all social media at my name and vincentalancy.com. This show is brought to you by johnford.com and the empathyset.com. He has an empathy app and an empathy card set to help you on this entrepreneurial journey stay mentally healthy. And Coming Alive Podcast Production.com to get your podcast journey started today. With that, we're signing off. Atlanta down to Tampa Bay. Thank you so much.